All right, so there is a formula that goes along with this, and I'm guessing you maybe saw it in junior high. I'm not the biggest fan of it because then kids are always want to argue with me about y1 and y2. So the formula for the slope, if you think about this, I'm just going to come to this point right here so you can see this. The coordinate of this point is a -3, -1, and the coordinate of this point is 3, 1. So if I look at my y's, and I subtract them, I know there's 2. I'm 1 minus a minus. I'm going to write it out so you can see. 1 minus a -1 is 2, right? And then if I look at my x's, I would do the same thing. 3 minus a -3, minus a minus is a positive, so it's 6. So you end up getting this. Okay, and it's just like counting. I could have subtracted the other direction. So I started with this point, and then I subtracted that point. Okay, I'm going to come over here to the side. If I start with this point and subtract this, I would have a -1 minus 1, which is a -2. And I would have a -3 minus 3, which is a -6. And a negative and a negative is a positive 1/3. Okay, so one thing you'll find that I'm going to struggle with since I'm a high school teacher is in junior high, they like to teach you these formulas, but then you get to high school and you don't remember them. And so instead of teaching you a formula, I'm going to teach you words. Okay, so you understand the slope. You're going to do the change in y. So basically, you're going to subtract your y's. Okay, we just did that over the change in x. And you're going to subtract your x's because that tells you the change that's happened. So if I said it was at 9 o'clock in the morning, it was 80 degrees, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, it was 92 degrees, what's the change? You would just do 92 minus 80. That's easy. Okay, so whenever you're talking about change, you're subtracting. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of these, and there's a formula that goes with that, and if that formula was important, I would write it on this page. But I think you'll remember you do the change in y over change in x over some silly formula, okay? So I'm going to show you, you can do this either way. If I start with this point, I do my change in y, 1 minus 3, over my change in x, which is 1 minus 4. So this is a -2 over a -3, so my answer is 2/3, okay? So I just want to show you this so that you understand it doesn't matter. What if I decided to start with the other one first? Okay, so now I'm doing the change in y. So the change in y's are 3 minus 1 over the change in x, which is 4 minus 1. So whichever one you start with, you have to start with for both x and y. It doesn't matter which one you start with. This ends up being 2/3. So you get exactly the same answer. It does not matter which one you start with. Okay, so let's take a look at this next one. If I start with the purple, I would have 4 minus a -2 divided by -2 minus 10. So minus a minus is 6. -2 minus 10 is a -12. So my answer is a -1/2. And like we just talked about a few minutes ago or in the last video, to me it's a few minutes, I don't care if you have 1 over a -2. It doesn't matter to me, but I physically can write my negative signs on the bottom of a fraction. And there's a reason for that later on, but it's not later on. So you write your negative sign wherever you want. Doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to delete all this gibberish. Okay, and now I'm going to decide to start with this point. So I'm going to do my change in y, -2 minus 4, over my change in x, which is 10 minus a -2. So that's a -6 minus a minus is a plus. So you end up with a -1/2. So it doesn't matter which way you subtract. Okay, it does not matter which way you subtract at all. So what I would like you to do, please don't go farther than this. There's a reason for my madness. I would like you to do 3 and 4 only. Pause the video, do a 3 and 4, and you do not need to do it both ways. I think I've made my point. So just find the slope, choose one of them, do it that way. It doesn't matter. Go, pause. Okay, so if I choose this point and if you chose the other, whatever, we're going to get the same answer if I write correctly. 5 minus a minus 5 divided by -4 minus a minus 8. So on the top, I get 10, and on the bottom, I get 4. Okay, I will not accept that as an answer because they're both divisible by 2. So my answer is 5/2. Okay. So again, on the next one, it doesn't matter which one you choose. So if I choose this one, it's going to be 0 minus 4 over 10 minus a minus 2. And so my answer is a -4 minus a minus becomes a positive. So -4 goes into both, and my answer is a -1/3. All right. Okay, so I would like to take a look at number 5 together because it is a little bit different. So it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do both ways anymore. I'm just going to start with this guy. So I'm going to do 9 minus 9 divided by 5 minus 3. So this is 0 over 2. We need to talk about this a little bit. So that means that it has no rise and it has all run. And so if I come over here to the side, I'm going to play a little game. If I do 15 divided by 3, isn't that 5? Because 3 times 5 is 15, right? And if I do 12 divided by 4, isn't my answer 3? Because isn't division backwards multiplication? So if I do 0 divided by 2, isn't my answer 0? Because 0 times 2 is 0. So isn't this answer 0? If you, and you don't have to write slope. I have no idea why I wrote slope there. Okay, so my answer on this is 0. Okay, if 0 is on the top, if you take 0 and you cut it into 2 pieces, you're still going to have 0 in each group. Okay, so understand that if the 0 is on the top, my answer is 0 because that means it's just a flat line. If I were to draw this line, I'm going over 5 up 9. And I'm going over 3 up 9. Isn't that line horizontal, which has a 0 slope? Okay, so now let's come to this guy. If I start with this point, start with my y's, 8 minus 5 over a -7 minus a minus 7. So this becomes 3 over 0 because minus a minus, that becomes a plus, and I get 0. So now let's talk about 3 over 0. A lot of kids are like, oh, that's 0. So you're telling me 0 times 0 is 3. Nope, 0 times 0 is 0. So the answer is not 0. So then kids are like, oh, Miss Williams, it's 3. Okay, and so you're telling me 3 times 0 is 3. No, it's still 0. So that doesn't work. Okay, I can sit here and play all day. Nothing is ever going to work. Not a thing. So this is a no slope. And if I was to draw this, like just a sketch, I'm going back 7, up 8, and I'm going back 7, up 5. Isn't that a vertical line, which we talked about is no slope? Okay. All right, now I'm going to really make your brain hurt. If I had 0 divided by 0, what's your answer? Okay, a lot of kids want to say 0. All right, you're not lying. That works. 0 times 0 is 0. But I have another answer. 17,363. 17,363 times 0 is 0. So my answer also works. So you can sit here all day and plug things in. If it's 0 divided by 0, it's actually all solutions. Now we don't have to worry about this case. What is the only way you're going to get 0 over 0 is if you have the same points. So you're finding the slope between something and itself. And we're never going to do that. You always have to find 2 points on the line. So you don't have to worry about this one right now, but you will later on. Okay. All right. So I would like you to do, I don't think we need to do all of these. I think you got the hang of it. I would like you to do 7, 10, and turn the page. I would like you to do 12. Pause the video. Do 7, 10, and 12. All right, so if I start here, it really doesn't matter. 9 minus 3 over a -1 minus 2. That is 6 over a -3, so my answer is a -2. Okay. On this one, I would have a negative 4 minus a minus 4 over 9. I'm just going that way. Minus 1, so negative, negative. That becomes 0 over 8, so my answer is 0. And then on 12, if I start with this one, I'm doing 6 minus 8 over 4 minus 4. So I get a negative 2 over 0. So this one is undefined. Cannot do it. All right, so now this next part is a little tricky. So this is going to be the hard part of your assignment. It says, sometimes you must complete ordered pairs given a slope. So like, you know how many hours you worked, you know your pay, but you don't know like your paycheck kind of thing. Like, it's weird things. You're given different things in the problem. So you know, if I look at these 2 points, if I start, it doesn't matter which one you start with. So if I start, I like to start, if it's a variable, I like to start with this one. So wouldn't I do y minus my y value is 6 over 5 minus a minus 5, and I know that equals a negative 4/5. Okay, so if I do a minus, isn't this y minus 6 over 10 equals a negative 4/5? So couldn't I cross multiply, right? So I would have 5 times y minus 6, and I would have 10 times a negative 4. So I would multiply in, so 5y minus 30 equals a negative 40. So I would add 30 to both sides. This goes back to what we did with equations. So 5y equals a negative 10. Divide by 5, and my answer is y is 2. Okay, so we're just doing what we've done in the past, and we're cross multiplying. I like to start with the x, because then when you distribute, it's not negative. So if I started with the x, you're going to do the 6 on the top, 6 minus a minus 2 over x minus a minus 3 equals 2, right? And you can make that 2 over 1 if that helps. Okay, so if I kind of do this out, minus a minus as a plus, so I'd have 8 over x plus 3 equals 2 over 1. So when I cross multiply, I'm just going to multiply, if it's okay with you, I hope so, I can't see you, but I'm just going to take the 2 and distribute and put it into both. So wouldn't that be 2x plus 6 equals 8? So I'd minus the 6, and I'd get 2x equals 2, divide by 2, and x equals 1. Okay, so let's take a look just at one more of these. So I like to start with the x, because then when you subtract, it's not going to be negative. So I would do a negative 7 minus a minus 4 over x minus 0 equals 3/2. So you end up with, minus a minus, you end up with a negative 3 over x equals 3/2. Now this one you might be able to look at and figure out what it is, but if you can't, that's fine. I'm just going to cross multiply. 3x equals a negative 6, divide by 3, and x equals a negative 2. Okay, so I would like you right now just to do, I think we don't need to do all 6 of these, but I would like you to do 17 and 18. Pause the video and do 17 and 18. So I like to start with the one that has the variable in it on a problem like this. So I'm doing y minus a minus 7 over a negative 3 minus 1 equals a negative 4, right? So I'm just going to rewrite that a little bit so I can see it. Y plus 7 over a negative 4 equals a negative 4 over 1 if you need it. So when I cross multiply, you're just timesing that by 1. It would be y plus 7 equals 16. Subtract the 16, and y equals 9. Okay, and so again, you don't have to, it doesn't matter, you're going to get the right answer. But if I start with that one, I'm going to do 7 minus 8 over x minus 11 equals a negative 1/5. Now on this, you can kind of see why I don't like to put it in front, and because you're kind of starting to see the reason I do this, because then kids want to put it into both of them, and it's not. Both those numbers aren't negative, just one of them is. So this is going to be 1 over x minus 11 equals a negative 1/5. So when I cross multiply, I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply and multiply both of those by a negative 1. And so then I would minus 11, and I get a negative x equals a negative 6, divide by a negative 1, and my answer is 6. Okay, so these are your problems that you're going to see with this.